All right, we're recording now, and it is Friday, February 12th, and we're all at home because of the weather and the slick streets. And so I'm not going to beat around the bush here, but I'll let you know we have a special guest today. This special guest joined us about 6 months ago, and then even back into the summer. And I had promised him and promised you that we were going to have him back to share with us again. So I'm welcoming back Mr. Trevor Crawford. Trevor is a 2017 alumnus of Union High School. He's currently a senior music education major at OU. He plays the trumpet. During those college years and post-high school years, he had gone on to do some incredible performing with the Cavaliers drum corps for 2 years and with the Bluecoats drum corps in the year 2019. And so, of course, the DCI seasons are all pretty crazy right now. I'm sure he'll talk about that a little bit. But what Trevor wants to share about mostly today, along with a couple other little, one funny anecdote about what his girlfriend's job is right now. I know that's random, but you can't wait to hear this because this is going to be great. He's going to be talking to us today about going into the future with music, and whether that is, if I know a lot of you guys are marching geeks and you may want to go do the drum corps scene, the DCI scene here in a few years. If you're not interested in that, that's okay too. He's going to talk about the audition process for people who are going to be music majors. He's going to talk about the audition process for people who aren't going to be music majors, and he's going to talk about just music in general after high school, even if you don't have anything to do with like music as a major or a career or whatever. So I'm not going to, that was probably a lengthy introduction. So I'm just going to turn it over to Trevor. Guys, feel free to put questions in the chat. I'm going to be writing questions down here on my own pad so we can be asking questions later on. But I'm just going to let Trevor take it away.
All right, good morning, everybody. So yes, like Mr. P said, you guys probably remember me or already know me. I guess all the major hit talking points have already been mentioned. The anecdote about my girlfriend. So as Mr. P mentioned, I'm a senior this year. So after this May, I need to kind of figure out what I'm going to do after college. My girlfriend, however, she has already graduated from college with her master's in industrial systems engineering. So she graduated and got a job with Hormel Foods up in Minnesota. And her job is she runs the production of Spam, like the meat in the can. So like if you ever see it on the shelves, there's a good chance that my girlfriend is the reason it's there. So that's just kind of a fun little story. They have a Spam museum, which is the feature like thing in her town, which is tiny. And at the Spam museum, I got myself a Spam sweatshirt. So that's kind of fun. They have little Spam piggy banks. It's great. A lot of stuff. But anyway, so that's just a fun little story. Let me see if I can get this presentation pulled up. Alrighty. And present. Maybe. All right, how are we looking? I can't see anybody, so. All right, if there's an issue, go ahead and shout at me, say something.
I think we're good. You can go ahead and go.
Wonderful, thank you. So obviously today we're talking about just kind of musical involvement afterwards, but like a major hitting point of a lot of it is auditions, because a lot of musical involvement post high school will involve auditioning. So we'll talk about auditioning and getting involved in DCI, as well as getting involved with music at whatever college or university you may choose to go to. So step one, I've got find a corps. So obviously you're going to want to choose a drum corps that you find interesting. You're going to, whether it's you think that they have really fun, cool shows, they play cool music, or maybe you know who the show designers are and you want to work with those specifically. Do that. When I was first looking at getting into drum corps, I wanted to audition at the Bluecoats. I thought they were the coolest. I was in love with them. But the year that I auditioned was right after they came off a championship year, so I was a little bit too chicken to do it. So ultimately, I ended up just going to audition with some of my other friends. But it ended up really well, so that was good. Once you've done that, go ahead and register and start preparing immediately. So when you go ahead and register, you're going to choose right then and there whether you want to do a video audition or whether you're going to, in a normal year that is, go to a camp. Obviously, things for this year, if there's anybody out there who's been involved with trying to get into drum corps, you'll know that it's been kind of crazy. But once you have registered, go ahead and get the packet and get familiar with it. So that means obviously whatever kind of prepared materials that they've got in there, start getting at it like really early. That way you are super familiar and have it down like it's nothing by the time the audition rolls around. But also there's going to be some methods, like some exercises in there as well. So for brass, it's going to be like your lip slurs, all your just kind of technique stuff, as well as percussion. You're going to have all of your exercises and technique stuff in that packet. So get familiar with those. That way, whenever you're at the camp, they can just call it out and you don't have to spend time fishing through your notebook. Another thing is, if you're going to an in-person camp, even if you're not, you really, really want to start focusing on your visuals. So straight leg is pretty standard in like 99% of drum corps now. So you guys already march straight legs, so that's wonderful. But everywhere that you go will probably have a slight variation on how they are instructing that. So just keep that in mind, like practice what you've got going on and then just kind of take information as it comes. And then also a huge aspect is getting comfortable with movement and dance, that kind of stuff. I know that it's becoming more and more incorporated into your guys' shows in recent years, and it's a huge thing in drum corps now. So like being able to move well and that kind of stuff is going to be a very, very big factor in the audition process. Play for others. So play for your teachers, play for your friends, like anyone who you think can help. It'll help you get over those nerves. Because every camp that I have gone to, like obviously there's the full group stuff, but then they kind of pull you out individually to play your audition stuff. So just doing anything to practice overcoming those nerves and anxiety is going to be something good. And then lastly, record yourself. That's the best way to do some self-improvement. A lot of the preparation for audition stuff is pretty common knowledge. A lot of you guys probably know this, like playing for others, recording yourself. That's all good stuff to be practicing to get ready for any audition, not just drum corps. Something that I forgot to add on to here is join the Facebook audition pages. I have never seen a drum corps not have a Facebook audition page, and that is where you are going to get a whole bunch of information as well as a line of contact for other members, other auditionees, staff members, that kind of stuff. So there will be at least one audition Facebook page for you to join. So go ahead and do that if you are doing this. All right, camps. So this one is specifically for in-person camps. So like I mentioned earlier, I went with friends. There was 4 of us total that went to audition for the Cavaliers in 2017. And it made it a little bit less intimidating. So that's a bonus. That was ultimately what got me to go audition. Is I was kind of too afraid to audition alone, but then I ended up being the only person to march out of the people I went with. So obviously the first thing I've got here is come prepared. So I've already mentioned like you want to be as prepared as possible for your music stuff and your visual stuff. Another thing that might not be as obvious is make sure that you are prepared for everything you will. um, meet some people. That's one of my favorite parts about drum corps is just meeting all these people from all over the place. So if you're at a camp, meet people. It'll make the entire experience so much more worthwhile. So you can obviously try to meet some veteran members that are marching. Sometimes they tend to hang out in groups, which can feel a little intimidating. But usually people like the leadership and like drum majors and stuff like that, they'll usually do a good job at reaching out and trying to make you feel more comfortable, that kind of stuff. The Bluecoats were so hospitable whenever people were auditioning. It felt crazy to me, like how friendly they all were, like right off the bat. Meet other people that are auditioning, not just the veteran members. You don't want to just try and hang around with the veteran members the whole time. Meet others that are in a similar position as you, other kids that are, graduating high school and want to march drum corps, or maybe some college kids that have marched before and decided to leave and come here for whatever reason. Go ahead and meet them as well. Just go ahead and make friends. That's just a huge part of it. When I went to my very first camp, it was in Dallas, Texas. And like I said, I went with 3 other guys that were from Union. And when we got there, like we just kind of hung out in our little group because we were the only people we know. But like right off the bat, we met 3 or 4 people at the Cavaliers who were veteran marching members, and they were from Broken Arrow High School. So we all just kind of like hung out, and it was very cool to, meet people from the same area. So like they know a little bit about you, and it just kind of made the whole experience a little bit more enjoyable. When I ended up going on to march with the Cavaliers, that was kind of like the people I hung out with were those guys from Broken Arrow. And last thing I've got is go all out. So you are obviously like, you want to be confident. Like hiding in the background, flying under the radar is not going to, it's not going, oh, I totally skipped be flexible, didn't I? Be flexible. That's a huge part of being contracted. If you are, doing an exercise and somebody gives you a new piece of information, even if you thought you were doing whatever exercise perfectly, be flexible. Absorbing this new information and applying it as quickly as possible is the best way for staff to notice you, and that's how you get contracted. At the Cavaliers, they called this a category called adaptability, and it was basically the reason that I got contracted, and I'll talk more about that a little bit later. Now we're on the 4th bullet point, which is go all out. So don't be afraid of doing anything wrong, because that's like why you're there. I know it's so much easier said than done to be like, oh, well, don't worry about making mistakes. That's how you get better. Like, I understand it can be scary. You don't want to make mistakes, but truly try not to worry about doing anything wrong, because if you get corrected and then do better the next time, it's just in line with that flexibility, adaptability thing I just mentioned. Confidence is key here. And like I already mentioned a little earlier, flying under the radar is not going to get you a contract. Video auditions. So I've also done my fair share of video auditions, and it is a very different experience than the camp. It's also cheaper. As soon as you purchase your techniques packet, get working on that and your audition requirements, just like you would for an in-person camp. But the earlier you get started with this, the more time that you have to get that best take possible. Because the longer you wait, the more stressed out you're going to be. You don't want to be sitting around like, oh yeah, I've got this audition that I need to record, and then all of a sudden it's a week before it's due, and you're like, oh man, I haven't even tried to record like 2 of these exercises. Like, that's just setting yourself up for failure. So you got to get on the ball with that with video auditions. Don't be afraid to ask questions. So the best place to ask questions would be the Facebook groups that I mentioned earlier. So especially since you're not going to camps and you don't get to ask questions to people in person, posting questions whenever you've got them on these Facebook pages are going to be the quickest and best ways to get answers. Oftentimes it'll be like veteran members that can try to steer you in the right direction, or maybe tag an instructor that can actually answer your question. If you are not a fan of, posting something in a public forum like that, if maybe you're a little bit intimidated, you can email an instructor directly. Some of them are, a little bit more stingy about it than others. Some people would rather just answer the question on Facebook for all to see. But, if you've got a question and you want to email them, go for it. And then you can also ask a veteran member. When I was auditioning for the Bluecoats, I had 1 week. I signed up with 1 week before the audition was due. I had already done drum corps for a couple of years, so I knew a lot of people in the activity from the Cavaliers, and I knew a lot of like their friends, and I also knew people from school and people that they had marched with. So I knew a couple of people in the Bluecoats, so I was able to text them and ask some questions when I had them. And then the last bullet point I've got here is don't settle for anything less than your best. It's kind of in the same line as what I mentioned earlier with, getting that best take possible. You have the opportunity with a video audition to make something as close to perfect as you can get it. So why would you want anything less than that? Since you're not going to an in-person camp, the staff doesn't really get to see you make mistakes and correct them. So I guess really you're just trying to make as few mistakes as possible. That being said, like they will give you feedback in your video audition, whether you get a callback or not, which is something that we will continue to talk about. And then, if you get started early, you'll have plenty of time to improve the exercises, especially if you're recording yourself. Like I mentioned earlier, recording yourself early and often will help you self-assess and evaluate what you can do better before that video auditions actually do. All right. And so I think this is the last slide I've got here about drum corps. I've got the callback camps. So they are almost always going to take place in January. I only know of one drum corps that does not do their callback camps in January. And for this one, you're really going to want to attend in person. If there are going to be video callback assignments available usually, but going in person is the best way to really put the right foot forward and try to get a contract. Um, when I was first auditioning, out of the four of us that went to audition, two of us got callbacks. And the callback camp was the same weekend as NBDA Honor Band. And I never, well, I guess I can't say never, but I only made the NBDA Honor Band twice when I was in middle school and high school. My freshman year, I was last chair of the 8th grade and 9th grade Honor Band. I guess my junior year, I was technically an alternate. And then my senior year, I made the wind ensemble. So I had to choose whether I wanted to be in the NBDA wind ensemble or if I wanted to go to this Cavaliers callback camp. I decided to go to the callback camp because marching drum corps was something that I had wanted since my freshman year of high school. It was the thing I wanted more than anything. Whereas my friend who also got a callback, he decided to stay and do the NBDA wind ensemble, which is fine. Like that's the decision that he chose to make. It kind of turned out to work in my favor because there was actually a snowstorm that weekend. So NBDA got rescheduled. So while I was in Chicago at the callback camp working on getting a contract, the NBDA band got canceled. And so I got to go back a couple weeks later and also be in the wind ensemble. So that just kind of really worked out in my favor. That will not always happen, but sometimes you will have to make a choice whether you want to go in person or not. The work doesn't change. So your work ethic and the hard work that you put forth into getting that callback is what's going to get you a contract. You got to keep on working hard and putting forth that same amount of effort, maybe even that same amount plus one. Like you just have to keep on working hard. I kind of stole the work does not change. The work simply does not change. That's what we would say during finals week at the Bluecoats. We would like, you don't have to add any special sauce or anything to it. Like you just keep on doing exactly what you were doing and improving steadily like that. If you got a callback from a video, then you're going to want to start thinking about the ways to prepare for an in-person camp. Like I had just mentioned, start mentally preparing for like how to adapt to instructions, that kind of stuff, as well as being prepared, bringing all the things that you will need to achieve well that weekend and sleep and stay clean and stuff. And then if you go into this camp with a mindset that you're going to come home with a contract, that's kind of in line with the whole confidence thing. So when I went to the Cavaliers callback camp back in 2017, I went to that camp. I told all my friends, I'm going to come home with a contract. I was being confident. And then I got there and I found out that many people from the previous season did not get contracted until February, March, some even April. So I had told all these people, I'm going in, I'm going to get a contract. And then I get there and I find out that not a lot of people actually get contracted in January. And I was eating my words a little bit. I was kind of scared. It did turn out in my favor that I did end up getting contracted that January, but it doesn't work out like that for everybody. But if you walk into that camp with the mindset of I'm coming back with a contract, then even if you don't get a contract, it'll probably ensure that, you know, it'll help set you aside from the instructors, and maybe they'll ask you to come to another camp. Sometimes they just want to see more. Like that doesn't mean that you were bad or anything. Sometimes they like what they see, but they want to see if you can do a little more. They want to see you improve just a little more before they're ready to give you that contract. Again, be flexible and adapt to the feedback and information you're given. So like I mentioned earlier, this adaptability category that the Cavaliers graded people on is ultimately why I got contracted. Back then they used to march bent leg, and I guess I picked that up really well. So that worked into my favor. So I had a nice visual score, and then my adaptability was like perfect. And then that kind of saved me because my playing was not very great. My playing actually scored really, really low. And I ended up going on to march with a lot of people who were much better performers than me, but they didn't get contracted until after me. I got contracted before them just because I adapted to instructions so well. So yeah. And then if things do not work out, that is not the end of the road. It's okay. A lot of people get cut. That's just kind of the nature of the game. Um, I auditioned, like I guess you guys already know, I've marched the Cavaliers and the Bluecoats. I auditioned for the Blue Devils for the 2019 season, actually. After the 2018 season, I had decided, I want to try something else. And of course, the Bluecoats were like my dream corps. But at this point, I don't know. I just decided I might as well go big or go home, right? Like the Blue Devils are the most winningest drum corps, right? And so I went to audition for them, and it was a very intense camp. I flew all the way out to California for it, and it was very intimidating, but I did my best. Ultimately, I did not get a call back because they told me that they liked what they saw, but they didn't want to invite too many people to the callback camps. They had about 11 trumpet spots open, so they invited 23 trumpets total. So it was a little heartbreaking, but like, it's okay. Things work out. Me personally, I had a couple of backup plans in the wing. I like literally right after that camp ended, I was sitting outside of Concord High School and I was looking at Bluecoats audition information, and I found out that I had a week left to audition at the Bluecoats. So I don't know, maybe it was like a sign or something. Um, Another thing that I had going on for me, which if you choose to participate in drum corps, the longer you're in the activity and the more involved you are with music at the collegiate level, situations like this can happen where one of the brass staff members at Carolina Crown had reached out to the marching band director at OU, Mr. Brian Britt, and they were asking for trumpet players. So Mr. Britt, recommended me and 3 other trumpet players in the marching band at OU. One of those trumpet players he was my roommate at the time, and he actually got contracted at the Blue Devils. And the other 2 went to the Carolina Crown camps. Unfortunately, they did not end up getting contracted, but that was one of my backup plans waiting for me. I had sent in a video and they invited me to their callback camp, which I ended up not going to. But if you do go audition for a drum corps and it does not work out for you, that is okay. A lot of drum corps will try to refer you to another corps that they think you would fit into. So this was super prominent, like this was super noticeable at the Bluecoats. I noticed this a lot because when I went to that camp, there were 80 some odd trumpets auditioning for 24 spots, not to mention the vets or the veteran members that are there. So obviously they turn away a lot of people. But after I got contracted, I would see them pull out groups of students who ultimately drum corps before they find a place to march that summer. But if you really, really want to march, you will find a place. And marching anywhere will look better to that staff than if you just sit around all summer. So like a lot of people, they'll get cut from the Bluecoats. Maybe they get recommended to go march the cadets. They go march the cadets for a year, and then they come back and audition for the Bluecoats the next year. And the staff will look at that and say, hey, they went out and they got some marching experience. Like that's good on them, and it'll bode well for them whenever it comes time to make contracts the next time. For the 2020 season, um, the guy who was assigned to be my rookie buddy at the Bluecoats, it felt kind of silly that he was my rookie buddy because he marched more drum corps than I had. He marched 5 years at an open class drum corps. Then he auditioned for the Bluecoats in 2019 and was the first person on the cut list. And then he marched cadets and came back and got a spot at Bluecoats. So sometimes it works out for you that way. But yeah, so that is, excuse me, that is just a whole bunch of information regarding auditioning for drum corps, hopefully when things return to normal. As for this year, a lot of corps are retaining the same membership that they had from this canceled summer. So that kind of makes it difficult to audition if you're trying to break into the activity. But not every group, like the Bluecoats, have said that they are re-auditioning everyone. So I'm currently in the middle of an audition process for the Bluecoats. So it's a little bit late in the game, but if you really want to try and find somewhere to march this summer, it is probably possible if pending, things happen. It'll definitely be shorter than usual. So that's just kind of something you have to take with a grain of salt. But looking to the future, hopefully things improve and this information becomes pertinent to all of you people out there who want to march drum corps. All right, so the next thing is getting involved with music in college. So for the music majors out there, the audition days. So the first bullet point I've got here is find out your audition days. For this for the 2021-2022 academic year, the audition days are probably done. Maybe. I'm not entirely sure. I know OU has been doing them for a while now. Um, but going to those audition days is the the correct way to actually audition to get into the School of Music. This was all kind of stuff that I wish I had known when I was trying to get into college. Um, it should, I would assume it feels something similar to like an all-state audition where it's just kind of an entire day dedicated to people coming in and auditioning for the studio professors to try and see if they can study there. I never went to an audition day, like I mentioned. This is all stuff I wish I had known going into college. So by the time, I thought that when I got that OU acceptance box, I was in. I just like checked the box that says music major. Like I thought that's all there was to it. Um, but it turned out you needed to audition, and I had missed the audition days. So that goes right into our next bullet point, which is contact the professor. Um, so since I missed all of the audition days, I went ahead and I emailed Dr. Carl Sievers at OU, the trumpet professor, to ask him, hey, I am so sorry, I missed the audition days. Could you possibly let me come in and play for you, just audition for you? He was gracious enough as to say yes. Some professors might not be as nice, but Dr. Sievers let me come in and play for him, and it was very different from like the regular audition day experience. I basically just went in and I played like my all-state etudes, and he made some corrections, and I would fix it. And we talked for most of it. It was kind of like a lesson. And by the end of it, he was like, "Well, I've already written down that you're in my studio. Have you had your music education interview?" And then I said, "My what?" So basically, I was just super unprepared. So if you're going to major in music, go ahead and check out all the degree, like all the requirements to get into that degree program. I ended up having to schedule a phone interview with the head of the music education department because I did not know that a music education interview was something that I had to do. So that was a fun little experience. But if you are actually, on time with all your stuff and you're right and you're on top of the ball, you've done the audition days, every that, it's still good to contact your professor because you can ask them questions, you can get to know them, they can help tell you like the standards for that studio. Um, and then also maybe see if you can't get a private lesson from them to see whether or not you actually like their teaching, that kind of stuff. And then the last thing I got here is practice your sight reading. So two of my three college auditions did not have sight reading, and it's a good thing for me that they did not. I was not very good at sight reading back then. I could probably still use some work with sight reading now. It is a skill that never goes away, or like it's never going to disappear. You're always going to need to sight read, is what I'm saying. And it's probably a good thing that Dr. Sears didn't ask me to sight read when I was going into my freshman year of college, because ultimately sight reading is what um, prohibited me from getting into the Oklahoma State School of Music. So I auditioned at OU, OSU, and TU, and I did not get into the School of Music at OSU because my audition was not very good. It was my last school of music audition. I thought I had this thing like locked down. I had gone through the ringer with the other two auditions. I knew what this was about, and I was totally unprepared for that OSU School of Music audition. So practice your sight reading. Make sure you're prepared for literally anything. And then for our non-music majors, that is okay if you don't want to major in music. Not everybody does. You know, some of you are really inclined for math or STEM or, social sciences, whatever have you, like that is okay. But I implore you to stay involved with music. There are a lot of people who will say that they're too busy to be doing band their freshman year. But if there is ever a time to stay involved with music during college, it is your freshman year. Like your freshman year, it may seem overwhelming, but you will get used to it, and it's probably going to be the least overwhelming semester or like school year that you have, that freshman year. So try to stay involved and don't think that you don't have the time for band, because if there's a will, there's a way. If you do join band, like say you join the marching band at whatever school you choose to go to, there are probably going to be a lot of upperclassmen in your major that can help you out. So, say you're one of those kids who was nervous that you were going to go to college and try to join and try to do band but also do your major, and then you're feeling like bogged down, you feel like you're failing because you're too busy. There will be upperclassmen in your same major that can help you manage your time, help you with schoolwork. Like band is a friendly environment for the most part, and like they want you to succeed. They're your friends, you know. Um, and also, it can, staying in band can provide you with tons of super fun and wonderful experiences. Not the same experiences as in high school band, obviously, but other fun and exciting experiences that are different. So, like, obviously, a lot of you guys are probably familiar with the excitement and the adrenaline of doing like competitive marching band and all that stuff, like going and performing on those big like BOA like performance stages, that kind of stuff. Um, Obviously, college band is much different. College band is not competitive. Your goal is to support the football team, but that can still be fun. Going into college, I hated football. I did not care about football. Like every Friday night, I just went to the football games because I had to, and I looked forward to performing at halftime. Like that was me in high school. I just wanted to be doing the performing. I did not care much about supporting the football team. But when you get to college, it's a totally different environment. Um, Football is like the thing, and so there's just like this exciting, frenetic energy about being at the football games and supporting the team. It's so much more. It felt more engaging to me. So if you're one of those people who are like, oh, I hated football, I don't want to go to the football games, I promise you, it can be a lot more fun in college marching band, and it can provide you with a lot of cool experiences. My freshman year, we went to Ohio State and Pasadena. So we went to Columbus, Ohio, to play Ohio State, and we went to Pasadena for the Rose Bowl. And then I've also gone to Miami. I've gone to Atlanta. I've gone to a whole bunch of places that have provided some really really awesome and fun trips because of my involvement with the marching band. For those of you who don't know, I also did 4 years in the Pride of Oklahoma. Well, kind of four. I did 1 year as just a regular member, 2 years as a trumpet section leader, and then my fourth year, so this last year, I served as like the marching technician. So I taught them, I implemented an actual straight leg technique, or at least I tried to. And then I also taught them like choreography and stuff, since a lot of our drill was like standstill kind of stuff. So then I've got marching, concert, and jazz band, all that stuff. So depending on the school that you go to, there will be different opportunities. So I can only attest to what OU provides. Different schools will have different opportunities that maybe you can talk to some of the student teachers that are with you guys about. I mean, um, you can audition to be in these ensembles during whichever semester you want. At OU, there's three concert ensembles in the fall and 5 in the spring. And during the spring, they add 2 concert bands to keep people from the marching band involved in music during the spring semester, which I think is a really cool thing. I'm super glad that exists. Um, and then as far as jazz band goes, OU has 2 jazz bands, and you don't have to be a music major to be in either of them. You just have to audition well. I finally got to be in a jazz band at OU this last fall. This is the first time that I had an opening in my schedule that would allow me to be in jazz band. I was super excited. I was in the second jazz band at OU, which was fine. I just wanted to do some more jazz for the first time since high school. And the lead trumpet player in that jazz band is a physics major, and he is one of the best lead trumpet players I have ever heard in my life. It only gives me a little bit of a complex, but it's really awesome that he still stays involved. He does marching band and jazz band on top of, well, I guess he's changed his major 1 or 2 times, but he's a STEM person. He does like engineering, physics, that kind of stuff. And then lastly, it's a really great way to socialize and make some new friends. So when you join, especially marching band, but it could be any other ensemble, it'll help you meet some other freshmen that are going through a lot of the same experiences as you. So that can just kind of help feel a little bit more comforting. You're not going through it alone. So if you feel overwhelmed by college on top of trying to do music, band will help you find some other people that are experiencing the same thing as you. I've already mentioned that you can also meet other people in your selected major that can, you can befriend, and they can help you out academically or social. Like they can, I don't want to volunteer anybody to mentor people, but like they can help you, they can help guide you a little bit. if you feel lost and confused. And it's also just the easiest way to meet people. I mean, you guys obviously uh, understand like the social impact being in band can have. Like a lot of you guys, your best friends could very well be in this same Zoom call, or maybe not in this Zoom call, but are probably in band, something like that. So joining band or staying involved with music post high school is going to be the easiest way to meet new people, make friends, and just kind of diversify your social circle so that you're not just sticking to like, you know, 2 or 3 people for your entire 4 years of high school. It lets you kind of branch out and meet a whole bunch of other people. One thing that I haven't mentioned in this non-music major slide is the opportunity to audition for scholarships. So if you don't want to major in music, that is totally fine. But you can also, I know OU does this. They have non-major scholarships, which basically just require you to be in a performing ensemble both semesters. So you would have to audition for this scholarship. So obviously you would prepare for that audition the same way you would prepare for any other audition, be it district, state, drum corps, all that kind of stuff. You know how to prepare for an audition. But yeah, so non-major scholarship oftentimes will include an audition to see if you qualify for it, and then it'll require you to be in an ensemble each semester. So like the people that I know who get this scholarship, they'll usually do marching band in the fall and then concert band in the spring, because that's just kind of the easiest way to get it done. So yeah, maybe maybe you absolutely don't have any interest in sticking with music after high school at all, but you need a way to get a little extra cash. Go ahead and audition for that non-major scholarship, and maybe you'll end up enjoying your involvement with music post high school a little bit more than you expect. But yeah, let me go ahead and exit out of the presentation, and I can go see what questions there might be. Oh, there's none. Wonderful. Well, I'm open to taking questions now.
Guys, feel free to put questions in the chat, or if you want to open your microphone, you can. I have a couple of questions, Trevor. Maybe you can, this would help guide some other things that might be on people's minds. Kind of going back to the DCI thing. And by the way, we have quite a few woodwind players here today, and generally speaking, woodwind players are less likely to do the drum corps scene afterwards, but we've had some great woodwind players who've gone on to do the DCI scene and done really well with it. So Trevor, how do you think about when you plan budgeting, like for those in-person callback camps and rehearsals and so forth? So like, I'm sure we wanted to plan way out, because DCI is a great activity, but it's not free, and you had to really kind of plan ahead for that.
Absolutely. Yeah. So I get this a lot because I know a handful of people at the University of Oklahoma that do drum corps or want to do drum corps, and they tend to come to me with their questions. And one of the big ones is money. And so my philosophy is try to kind of take it one expense at a time. Because, if there's a will, there's a way kind of thing. Maybe that's like a privileged perspective of mine, but like, I think that if you really, really want to make it happen, try not to let just the overwhelming like idea of the cost of it just scare you away right off the bat. So trying to just kind of take it one cost at a time. Because, if you let the cost of drum corps scare you away from auditioning, then you'll never even know if you could have made it a possibility. So, yeah, you're going to want to budget for, so the camp experience, even a video audition is usually going to be over $100. I think this year is obviously different because, COVID and that kind of stuff. But in the past, I think my video audition for the Bluecoats have usually floated around 120. And then a camp experience at the Cavaliers has also kind of been around the 150 area, but that's a little bit different because then you have to like budget to go there. So that first camp I went to, I went with a group of friends, and our moms all drove us down. But but after that, depending on where you end up going, because to my knowledge, there are no drum corps. I guess there's the Zephyrus thing that's in Tulsa now, but other than that Zephyrus corps, I don't know of any that are in Oklahoma. So you're going to have to travel out of state. So if it's close enough to drive, find some people to carpool. Otherwise, try to find as inexpensive of a plane ticket as possible, try and budget that. And then if you are fortunate enough to, handle each expense one at a time, and then they do offer you a contract, they have payment plans to help you so that you don't have to just pay it all one lump sum. They have fundraisers. A lot of corps will have mandatory fundraisers. So you have to at least do a little bit of this fundraising to participate. If you want to, take this fundraiser and run with it and try to get your whole summer paid off with it, more power to you. I know someone at OU, she did like bake sales to help pay for drum corps. And if money is still an issue, try talking to like administrative members at the corps, and they can maybe put you in contact with some alumni members. I know people who've been sponsored by alumni to march. Maybe not a whole sponsorship, but like the alumni will help them out with their fees. So it's just kind of something that you have to get creative when it comes to paying for it, and just kind of take it one step at a time.
That's really good, Trevor, because it's kind of like in anything in life, and it's not just like drum corps, but anything in life that you really want to do is going to cost something. And I specifically remember, Trevor, when you were in high school, because Trevor was in the wind ensemble here at Union and stuff. And I specifically remember, like, you had your plan, like you had your strategy on, I got to save this much for this camp or whatever. He had it all kind of mapped out. I think, as far as I remember, you had at least that first summer figured out.
Yeah, I was fortunate enough that, like I said, when I mentioned earlier, like, oh, take it one expense at a time, that's probably easier said than done. It could be a privileged perspective of thinking about it. But I got a job at Quick Trip when I turned 16, like literally a week after my 16th birthday. I applied to Quick Trip and started working there a month later. And I saved up from the month after I turned 16 until I graduated high school. So I had enough money for one summer of drum corps, like the whole thing. But my mom was very, very, I don't want to say she wasn't reluctant. She wanted to support me. So she was proud that I had, I guess, made this plan and worked so hard to achieve this goal. So my mom paid for my first summer of drum corps as like a graduation gift. So I guess that was, not everyone's going to be in that position, but it was very fortunate for me. And then that allowed me to save up some more money so that I could pay for drum corps in the future. So that's part of what's helped me be able to march multiple years, because it does get expensive. But yeah, if you work hard and make a plan, like, you can figure something out.
Right. Yeah, that's great. And whether it applies to this or any other dream you kind of have. And I know students who, like, they've, for Christmas and their birthdays and whatever, they just ask for help paying for their fees rather than whatever, other
Absolutely.
stupid crap you want to buy from the mall. Get help with something in your life, something, in your life that's worthwhile.
That's definitely been
Trevor, Trevor, what do you? I've kind of talked about this with some students before. When we have students who are going to go out to the DCI corps, or they're going to go to the college band experience or whatever, and they show up, and we've had some great successes at Union, and we're so proud of our students for their hard work and involvement. So when you show up, and you've been at Union, sometimes people will know you've been at Union. What's your advice on talking about? Oh well, I marched at Union and we were in the Grand National Finals and all that kind of stuff. How far does that go when you're in college or DCI? Who cares about that?
Don't talk about it. No one cares. Like, as proud as I am to be a Union alumnus, and as much fun as I had at Union and how much I love to talk about it all, like, no one cares. Like, I guess I could eat my own words just a little bit. I mean, like I said, I'm a huge bando, so like I wore like our Renegade Regiment like gym shorts to my first camp, and the visual caption head at the time, we were doing an exercise where we like laid on the floor to like build our posture or whatever. And he walked by and he saw my shorts and he goes, "You go to Union?" I was like, "Yeah." And he was like, "Oh, cool. I work with Owasso sometimes." I was like, "Oh, neat." And that was it. Like, I think ultimately the fact that he knew that I had gone to Union might have made him think, "Oh, well, this kid will probably work hard." Maybe, but like I would never bank on that. Like, for the most part, they don't care where you went to school.
Yeah, so it might, people might acknowledge, okay, you come from a good program, you're probably well trained, but ultimately it's going to come down to what you do, not what your pedigree is, where you come from.
Absolutely. Yeah. Like, I have experienced multiple summers where kids will walk in thinking they're, hot stuff because they went to like X BOA band, and then they kind of get made fun of it all summer because they're just like, "Oh, I'm from this school." And it's just like, okay, like, back off a little bit. Like, if you go around talking about how cool you are because you went to this high school marching band, like, you're just kind of asking for people to give you a hard time, unfortunately.
Right. Because the proof really is in what you can do, not where you came from.
Yep, proof's in the pudding.
Right. Awesome. Okay. I don't know if I have other specific questions. Guys, feel free to put them in the chat, or you can open your microphone. I just have a couple other things I was going to mention here. I really think that what Trevor's talked about today, even if you're like, well, I'm not really thinking about, what he's talking about, all of this kind of auditions, psychological strategy can follow you into any kind of job interview. I mean, you're probably going to have to interview for whatever degree program you're going to. If you're going to go on past a bachelor's degree into a master's degree, you have to be able to kind of like sell yourself to people, sell who you are to people in order to take those forward steps. So it's all about that confidence. And so I think everything that Trevor's talked about today really, really applies beyond just music, just beyond a music audition, a DCI or a college thing. So a lot of valuable stuff here. I'm really glad we're recording this.
Yeah, and I mean, don't think I'm just like saying the words and not practicing. I'm currently in the process of auditioning and interviewing and applying for graduate school. So like I'm still applying literally all of this information currently. I guess right now I'm just in the waiting game to see if I get accepted into any programs. I'm also still trying to audition for drum corps. So like the Bluecoats have pushed everything back a little bit. I just recorded all of my music videos this week, and then I have to try and figure out a way to record all my visual videos in the freezing cold this week. So I'm still applying all the advice that I'm displaying in this presentation.
That's awesome. I mean, really, I've heard it said before, but life is an audition. So there's always going to be a next something for all of us, and applying these psychological constructs, I think, is really valuable. Guys, I want to let you know over here on our website, I'm going to go ahead and switch and share the screen really quick, actually. Over here, this is over at unionbands.com, of course, and under the resources section, we've got the students, or you just scroll all the way to the bottom, and if you see college auditions here under student resources, we've got a lot of tips here. In fact, Trevor, if you get a chance, you might look over this and go, that's out of date, Pasara. You need to change some of this. But some of this is fairly current. This is how you can request an audition with a college for college auditions. We don't have drum corps on here, but this also, some of these are a little out of date, but some of it's pretty current in terms of like, here's who you want to call. Like you need to know who the trumpet teacher is at OU. It's Dr. Carl Seaver. So we have a list of those teachers that's fairly current. There could be some slight changes, but I think this is pretty current. With just ways that you can reach out and learn who people are as you make that transition to college. So all these college resources right here at your fingertips to help you get started.
That exists when I was in high school?
This page right here?
Yeah.
Probably not. I mean, probably Trevor, back when you were like, you're trying to get into, do your thing in college, you're like, I didn't know about any of this stuff. I was like, well, that's probably my fault in a lot of ways. I need to get it together. And so obviously a lot of things that we do, we try to resource, we're going to do here on our website.
No, that's awesome. I'm glad that this exists for you guys. I'm glad that you do not have to endure the same the anxiety and stress that I did with trying to get into music school.
Right. So there's that. Okay. Well, we're a little past our time. Last chance for questions. Phil, open up your microphone. Anybody?
I have a question.
Wonderful. Oh, I think my computer might have froze a little bit, but I can hear you.
Okay, that's good. So I know that you play trumpet and brass auditions tend to be somewhat similar. Mm-hmm. I play French horn, and I'm just kind of wondering, like, what should I expect? Should I expect really musical pieces or really technical pieces for auditions, or how does that work?
Usually, from what I have seen with French horn auditions, especially at OU, I mean, it'll be similar to any other kind of brass audition where you get like a technical and a lyrical thing, but then French horn auditions also usually have excerpts from literature with, really famous and or important French horn parts that can be difficult. Some of them, I don't know if they'll ask for any transposition stuff going into your freshman year, but it's a possibility. I know that it starts to get added on to like other higher level audition stuff. So the biggest difference between like French horn auditions and like trumpet or other brass auditions is that they will probably ask for more excerpts than anywhere else. The first time I've ever played excerpts for an audition was my graduate school auditions. So.
Okay, thank you. And I'm definitely going to have to work on my sight reading too. It is abysmal at this point.
Trust me, I can relate. I am constantly having to practice sight reading and transposition. I sat down for an hour the other day to practice transposition, and it was a little scary. So,
sight reading factory. I've got all those sight reading books in the office, guys. So we have resources for you. You have to kind of sink your teeth into them.
Utilize it.
Great question, Ramiro. I mean, generally speaking, you just want to have more than one style as you're going to have a general audition, but yeah, that's good.
Guys, I was going to make a point too, Trevor, that this was an awesome, it was a lot of great information. But hopefully everybody listening to this, Trevor has always been like this. He's very communicative. He was always organized, even in high school, and you can even see how organized he is even in this presentation. So guys, that's a big thing too. When you go into these auditions, the people listening are looking at how well you absorb the information, certainly for drum corps stuff, but even for college auditions. Not only how well you play, how all of those things, but are you articulate? Do you have eye contact? If you're in a Zoom call, are you like this, talking to an adult? Or are you like the, there's a lot of like life skills that Trevor clearly has, and he always did, by the way, Trevor.
Oh, thank you.
Proud of you. But all of those things are very important too. And these professors are looking for that as well. They're looking for people who have life skills. They can problem solve. They think on their feet. They are articulate. They, speak clearly. All of those things. So that's another thing. Like Mr. Pissarro just said, life is an audition. That's a really good point. And Trevor, this has been an eye opener for me, because you talking about how unprepared you felt. That we can help hopefully with that for all of you guys sitting and watching this. Hopefully we can help prepare you a little bit more, just kind of with that reality. Mr. Pissarro, I like that list of information is on our website. So anyway, thank you, Trevor. You're awesome.
Thank you. That was very nice. Part of it's probably on me. I like to try and figure things out for my own. So maybe it's a character trait or a character flaw of mine, but I might have just been a little too stubborn to ask any of the instructors for help. But yeah, so it's really good that you guys have all the resources to help students out now. Speaking a little bit further on like just always kind of being ready for it. I've only had to interview for one graduate program thus far. At least maybe that's the only one that's advanced to an interview portion, and it was for the San Francisco Conservatory of Music. And in that, it was literally just a short 8-minute interview where they just wanted to see my face, so that way they knew who they were judging, and I don't know if I expected it to be more or whatever, so I did the whole thing. I dressed up in like a suit, the whole thing, pants and all, even though it was on Zoom. And when I showed up, like all the trumpet professors were just like hanging out wearing like sweats and t-shirts, and they were like, "Hey, oh man, I underdressed for this." And I was like, oh, well, I was prepared. I was like, I didn't know if this was casual or not, so I just wanted to be prepared for it to be professional.
That's brilliant. That's brilliant, Trevor. Like, you can never be overdressed, right? It's always better to be overdressed than underdressed. That's great. Okay, so I'm thinking here, this, as a result of what Trevor talked about, I talked about what Mrs. Lawless just mentioned. I think what we're going to do is next week, we're going to have probably a seniors only Zoom meeting for seniors to sign up for, because I'm kind of feeling like there's probably some of you who maybe you're just kind of thinking about this, but you feel like, wow, I don't really have enough information. So we'll have a little Zoom meeting to help you guys spring forward to what your next steps are. Sometimes we kind of forget about what those steps are after a high school experience. Either that, or we just assume you're so darn smart, you have it all figured out for yourself. In reality, you probably don't. We may also invite juniors who are interested in that as well to tag along. So, all right, well, guys, if you have questions afterward, Trevor, I'm sure they can email you, but instead of like memorizing your email address here, guys. If you'll email me with your questions, I can forward those over to Trevor, and he'll be glad to get back to you, I'm sure.
Absolutely.
Other than that, I just want to say, kind of echo Ms. Lawless and say, Trevor, gosh, I'm so proud of you and all of your hard work, where you've come from. I know that you've outproven to yourself what you could do. You've done so much more than what you thought you could have done, and you overcame the obstacles of getting through maybe a difficult professor situation and got past that to where you now have a great relationship with a professor. You overcame the obstacles of the finances and the logistics of auditions that you've been going through. And my gosh, you're getting ready to go to grad school. He's student teaching this semester and moving on, going to be a band director someday. And it seems like just yesterday you were sitting in my band room. So it's incredible. I'm really proud of you.
Feels like I was just in the band room too. The past 4 years went by incredibly fast. Well, up until about like a year ago this time, it was all just zooming by.
It does. It goes fast the older you get. Well, guys,
Yeah.
let's give Trevor a hand. Let's give him our thanks for being here today, and I appreciate all of you being here. And by virtue of you being here live, you don't have to do another assignment after this. So congratulations for you guys. That's a good thing. All right. Well, I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording. Let's see if I can get that taken care of. Yeah, recording stopped.